letter confessing to having—" Seth began. He went to stand beside Emma, putting an arm around her shoulders. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but I have to say this," he whispered to her. "My brother, Reverend Thompson, confessed to having been party to Rachel LeGoff and her son Johnny falling from the cliff. Mrs. LeGoff was running away from him. I can show you the letter." "Do you think anything a murderer might have to say on the night before he went to the gallows would hold any sway with me?" "How dare you!" Emma was white hot with rage now. "What Carter Jago was isn't Seth's fault, and the coroner's verdict was good enough for the Reverend Toop at the time. He gave my mamma and Johnny a lovely funeral. The whole town turned up." She glanced at Seth. His pa and his brothers hadn't been there, but Emma had glimpsed Seth afterwards among the gravestones, solemnly watching as her mamma and Johnny were lowered into the earth. "Almost the whole town." "The previous incumbent was obviously a softer touch than I am. Now, if you'll excuse me." The Reverend Thompson sidestepped Emma and Seth and walked to the door. "I'll have Mrs. Dunn show you out." "We'll find our own way," Seth said. "Yes," Emma agreed. "And we won't be back. Not ever." "Did you mean that?" Emma, her arm through Seth's, leaned into him. They were walking the gravel paths of the cemetery, habit taking them to family graves. Seth's mother's, with its ornately carved headstone, and Emma's pa's, with its far simpler tablet, and her mother's and Johnny's, the same as her pa's, but with a dove etched over Johnny's name. Seth had had them made for Emma, because she hadn't been able to afford them herself at the time. A surprise, a gift, a testimony to his love for her. Every word. "I'm never going to the rectory again, no matter what, or the church. But we'll have to come here, won't we?" They'd reached her mamma's and Johnny's joint grave now. It didn't seem possible that it was over 2 years since they'd been laid to rest. Emma bent to trace her finger along the wording. Rachel LeGoff, aged 39 years, taken cruelly by the sea, 24th of February, 1909, with her son Johnny, aged 7 years. Together forever. "And we will. We'll come at night, sweetheart, if the Reverend Thompson puts his sexton on watch to keep us out during the day." Emma wanted to laugh, because the thought of her and Seth creeping about the cemetery in the dark, trying to find the graves, was a funny idea. But the laugh wouldn't come. "I wanted to lay my wedding bouquet here," she said, a catch in her voice. She knew exactly which flowers she would carry on her wedding day, wild flowers, if there were any to be had, and if not, stocks. Heady, musky, scented stocks. White ones for preference, and a white bud rose as a buttonhole for Seth. "So my mamma was part of our day? And I thought you could put your buttonhole flower on your ma's grave, and—" "We still can," Seth interrupted. "There are other churches. The Baptist chapel?" "No, I've never been a Baptist. Baptists are too sanctimonious, my mamma always said, saying you can't have a drink of sherry, even at Christmas, or put brandy in your puddings. Besides, I was christened in this church. I don't want the Reverend Thompson and his narrow-mindedness forcing us into something we don't want. I'll know when I see the right place for us to marry." "But we'll marry soon," Seth said. "I love you and want to make a statement to the world to say so." "Oh, Seth, you say the loveliest things." Emma felt her eyes welling with tears. She was already emotional from their unpleasant confrontation with the Reverend Thompson.